The Sales Playbook webinar brought to you, as always, by Lead Forensics. I am your host, Joe Ducaro, and joining me today for the Building Rapport Sales Playbook, I'm joined by Christina Garnett, MBA and award-winning advocacy strategist for HubSpot. Christina, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Excellent stuff. I wanted to get you specifically on this podcast off of the back of the webinar that we did because I feel like, we built some a good rapport there. So
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to get you back on, particularly to have this conversation. So let's start off. I was always taught when you're discussing any sort of topic, step one is define your terms. So when we say building rapport, what exactly do we mean by that and why is it important?
Yeah, I think it's essentially the idea of like planting seeds so that you're able to learn just a little bit more about people. You feel more comfortable with them, you trust them. And as you foster and deepen that connection, it's going to open doors for you, opportunities, maybe sales, things like that.
And we were talking just before we started recording, and I think you've got a real world example from today, as we
Yeah.
record this, of why it's so important to build rapport before going in with the sales pitch. So do you want to just talk us through that one?
Absolutely. So I, like many people on this planet, am an avid LinkedIn user, and I got a message in my email basically saying like, "Hey, just wanted to make sure that you saw my message." And the previous message was, "Hey, dot dot dot, insert pitch." And
Mm.
I understand that the economy is not in a happy place. I understand that a lot of people have a lot of pressure on them and they're trying to do things, but it doesn't change the fact that as a consumer, when I see that, I feel like I'm just a number to you. And as a marketer, a lot of my work is to make sure that people don't feel like numbers. And so I went on Twitter to basically kind of share my frustration. Like my silence was my response. Like I can
Absolutely.
give you a response, but my silence is nicer. Like just take my silence. Um, and so a lot of people agreed with me. There was a couple people who were kind of like, how dare you? But for me, my entire work is built off of building relationships. And so I'm not saying like, don't do your job. I'm saying build that rapport and that relationship with people so that that's what's going to help you do business. If I trust you, if I respect you, if I know that you care,
Mm.
if I can tell that you only ping me whenever you need to hit quota, I'm going to feel that and I'm going to feel used. And so I think that you can have empathy for both sides, both the sales team as well as the people who are being pitched to. But I think that we need to be very aware of how, when you communicate with them and your first thing is an ask, like, I don't know you from Adam, but you're going to introduce to me yourself to me and immediately just imagine how you feel when someone comes up to you and the first thing they want to do is ask you for a favor. That's not ideal.
Yeah, it can be quite the barrier, isn't it? And particularly in a sales sense, where I think we all
Mhm.
we all understand the game and the fact that you mentioned something earlier actually, just before we started. You mentioned that you operate on a quality rather than a quantity sort of quota, and obviously
Yeah.
it's very easy to slip into the quantity side of things when it comes to
Yeah.
getting in touch with people for for sales, in touch with prospects and stuff. So to that end, then, how do you begin building a rapport with a prospect you've never even met before?
I would find out where they are. It doesn't take as much time as people think. It's those little micro moments that you have to create. So it's understood that there's a certain number of touches that it takes for sales to essentially get through that deal and close it. But some of those touches, you need to be very thoughtful about, hey, it isn't I just checked in to get an update. It's I want to know how you're doing. I want to know, like, do you have any questions? Are there concerns? Or is there anything I can help with? Because people can tell when you care. And
Hmm.
if each touch is, here's the pricing, did your leadership have questions? I'm just resurfacing that. That's not the touch you think it is. It feels like you're just like checking off the touches in your
Hmm.
CRM and saying like, all right, I did that one.
It's like very
Instead
sort
of
of
making,
thinly veiled mask, isn't it? It's very, like you say, you can tell when someone's being inauthentic, even if it is to the point
yeah.
of you're saying all the right things effectively, but you just don't get a sense that they mean them.
And also when you focus on quantity, and granted, like I said, I understand quotas are hard, but when you focus on that, those people also feel like their quota. They feel like they know that you're one of 30, one of 50, one of 100, one of 500 that you're, and all those people that you close, you think, well, maybe it just didn't work. Maybe their leadership didn't agree. But also, there's some deals that you've lost because you didn't make them feel special enough.
Mm.
You didn't make it personal enough. You made it very clear this is the pitch. And so, whether people agree with me or not, I think it's important to understand that there are a lot of consumers who they are choosing not to do business with people because of how they are treated, because of how they feel, because of the not just what how they were taken care of. And also you have to remember too, the sales process, whether it's true or not, feels like an indicator of how they can be treated throughout the rest of their process as a customer. So if I feel like you're rushing me through the sales process and you're not answering my questions and you're not taking care of me, or you're being a bit aggressive, then I'm going to assume when I'm a customer, that's not going to magically get better.
Mm.
I'm going to assume that your sales is indicative of how I'm going to be treated as a customer for the life of the product. And so all I'm asking for is just a little bit of that, like, just add one touch. Add one touch that's specifically like, I'm going to comment on one of your LinkedIn posts, or I'm going to um, mention a tweet that I saw from you, but I'm going to show in like one or two sentences that I'm paying attention to you. That does a lot. And then when you try to talk to me later on, I'm going to remember, oh, I recognize that name. He or she had mentioned like this. They had said this on this comment. Okay, I recognize them. It takes seconds to do that, but it starts planting those seeds that you can then reap later.
Mm.
And so I think it's just really important. It takes time, but it doesn't take a lot of time to do those individual moments. And it makes a huge difference in how people feel about you.
And I think, I mean, it comes up, you know, I say that it's almost virtually the motto of every podcast and webinar that I do for Lead Forensics is that people buy from people. And if you can nurture that relationship to a point where they, you know, you've just shown yourself to be human to each
Mm-hmm.
other. You know, you've maybe shared just a
Yeah.
little, you know, it can be something as easy as knowing what baseball team that they cheer for, or you know,
Yeah.
showing a little vulnerability, like, oh, you know, here's what I'm up to here, you know, that sort of thing. Just engaging with them on a more personal level, rather than just going in with, let me sell this to you. Um,
Yeah. And celebrating those little wins. It's all about those like micro moments, those core memories. And there's been this thing, especially since we've with lockdown, how we've all kind of become disgustingly focused on living online, myself included. I basically live online now. And the whole idea of like strangers help us and celebrate us more than some of our like in real life friends and family do. Be a cheerleader for the people you want to connect with. If they were featured, love on them. If they're having a birthday, love on them. If they got promoted, love on them. And not just do like the auto responders that like LinkedIn will show you when someone does a post. Like literally spend 5 seconds. It's That's the thing is what I want sales to do is give me that extra 5 seconds. Give me
Absolutely.
that give me that little thing that's like, oh, this is so cool, I just saw this, or something that I know wasn't like an autocomplete. Give
Mm.
me that 5 seconds, and that 5 seconds over time, I'm going to see this person takes just a couple more seconds with me. And you're not going to do that if you don't care. You're just going to be like, boop, likewise. And so that's what I'm asking for. It's just that I'm not asking for a full like systemic change, but just like 5 seconds, that extra personal touch, even if it's just once. Just do that. It'll make a difference.
Absolutely, and I mean, the thing that what you risk there is actually something that I recorded a podcast with Celine Schillinger, who wrote Dare to Unlead, and she's very much big on leadership techniques. And we got onto the subject of AI, and
Mm-hmm.
she told me the story of how she received an email from, you know, a company trying to sell her something. And she said the reason that she immediately deleted that email and disregarded that company entirely was because she could tell it was a mass produced email that wasn't specifically targeted at her as a person. It was clearly just
Hmm.
a bulk email that they'd gotten this piece of AI software to write and just send out to everyone, because she realized there was a technicality that was like, well, that's clearly not for me. So it goes
Yeah.
straight in the trash, you know. So
Yep.
um, just to stay on something that you mentioned there about, you know, living, as you put it, disgustingly online.
I can't
How
help it now.
how do you go about building rapport in a virtual sales environment? Is it easier? Is it harder, do you think? What are your thoughts on that one?
I think it's harder. There's a lot of nuance that you can't have online, either because it's in written, so there's a lack of tone, you're not able to really see like the human piece. I think that that's also why that extra 5 seconds is so much more important now,
Mm,
because if I could take you out to dinner, or I could take you out to lunch, or we could meet up on the golf course, or we could do all of these things, it's deeply human. I know I'm gonna be able to figure out like what's your beer of choice, what makes you laugh. Like there's a reason why like in the past it was always like the deals are made on the golf course, because it's deeply human. You're doing something fun ideally, and you're doing something that just because I can focus on this, and because you're willing to do this with me, we're gonna make this deal because like I know you.
mm,
I know what your handicap is. I know what your swing is. I know if I can beat you or not. Like it's deeply human. And as we're moving to online, I feel like that's where we've switched. That's where we have to like send out a million emails and with the hope of doing that. But what we've missed is we've missed the golf course. We don't have the human element anymore. So it's the little things that kind of recapture that humanity that makes the world a difference. Because I don't know what makes you laugh. I've never shaken your hand. I've never like done any of those things. So on social, I just know what you've shared. And
mm.
depending on how wild you are on social or how like tied up you are, you could have a very polished LinkedIn and I have no idea about about you personally. I just know that you do bop bop bop. So anything that you can do to infuse that sense of humanity, that's what's going to foster connection. That's what's going to make people want to like, oh, I love hanging out with him. He's hilarious. Or I love hanging out with her. She's great. She knows everybody. Whatever that is, as sales and as marketers and as people in community specifically, you wind up becoming the face, and so you kind of embody what they hope to see. Like, oh, they're really funny, or oh,
Mm.
they're really kind, or hey, if I reach out to them, I know they're going to respond and they're going to help me, whatever that looks like. But it's that humanity element that's missing. And so you need to be thoughtful. Like, how are you connecting with them? How are you making them feel? I find that so much of my work, and you have to figure out how to track it, but so much of it runs on vibes. How do I make you feel? And how does that make our relationship stronger or weaker? And then because of that, you're going to do these specific behaviors. And those behaviors we can then track and see, like, is this actually creating business impact? But it all starts with, well, how do they feel? And for me, it's vibes, it's relationships. I have people who know that they can come to me if there's a problem and they know that I will help them or I will find someone who will. But that takes time.
Mm.
That trust doesn't exist in a vacuum. You have to nurture that. You have to continually foster it and grow it. You have to water it. You have to take care of it. And so, but you have to start with those little like 5 second increments. That just a little bit of extra. You DM me, I'm going to DM you back. Oh, you emailed me, I'm going to email you back. It's not going to be an automated. It's going to be like, hey, and just talking like yourself too.
Mm.
Like everything doesn't need to be Times New Roman, MPA. Like you talk like a human, talk like how you are. If your emails are like very stuffy and then I get on a Zoom call with you and I'm like, he's like sarcastic and funny, that wasn't what I was expecting. Like even that fosters relationships. I know what I can expect from you. I know how we can work together. You're like very funny or you're sarcastic or you're whatever. It's those little nuggets that foster that because they're deeply human. And so as we live online, find out how are you human online? What kind of shows your inner light essentially?
Absolutely, and just to reinforce what you're saying, that you know, I mentioned at the top of this conversation that I absolutely wanted to get you on to have this conversation, and that's simply because we were doing a webinar and you gave a throwaway answer that referenced Doctor Strange, and I was like, great, we have
I love
something.
Marvel.
Yeah. Or Tolkien, or film, or
Yeah.
like, narrative theory that it turns out we've both studied. So that's
Yep.
precisely, it was like literally within a split second. I was like, okay, you've shown me a window into who you are personally, and that meant that, I felt comfortable to say, let's have this conversation because I think we get
Yeah.
on absolutely great. Um,
Yep.
so how can, I mean, we've discussed about how it literally, it does take 5 seconds just to appear, to present yourself as more human than just, a worker in a company. But the flip side of that, then, I wonder how easy is it for salespeople to balance, building that rapport with their prospects while also meeting their sales targets, because it is a pressure, it's a high pressure environment.
I think it's very difficult. I think it's very difficult. I think that I feel like with marketers, because we're always chasing trends and we're always keeping up to date with new things, we've accepted that we have to adapt. Like it's just who we are.
Hmm.
Sales is very much, they're so focused on like hitting the quotas and doing what they need to do that that's not ingrained in their thing. So they've had all these changes that have happened. They're having to adapt, but they don't have the time to adapt. So like one of the people who disagreed with me and basically said like, but that's not how it works. And he's right, that's not how it works, but that's a systemic problem
Hmm.
that like sales across the board needs to. I feel like you have these waves when everyone realized like LinkedIn could be used for sales and this is how they do it. Like they basically all took the same class at the same time, and then we all saw a wave of like the exact same tactics used like across industry, across like region. And so it's one of those things that I think with the invention of AI, with this focus on more people being like virtual instead of in person, and in some places hybrid, it's incredibly hard. So for me, I'm asking sales leaders, like, is there an opportunity for you to give them that 5 second window, that 5 second barrier to say, like, out of all of these, and that's also why I like ABM so much, is because that kind of gives you an opening to do more specific personalized content and reach out and things like that. So you can have a ton of people that you're talking to, but like you're able to like hyper segment. I really like that.
Hmm.
But I think it's not a light switch thing. It's not like something like, okay, cool, we implemented it, we're done. I think it's very much something that I hope we'll see. I hope that sales and marketing will talk more to each other and have more of that alignment where they talk about how, like, I'm not asking you to change everything. I'm just asking you to give 5 seconds. Just give me 5 seconds of that. Give me one touch that isn't about a pitch. Give me that. But that's gonna take time. But long story short, it's very difficult. It's a massive change, and I think that anytime you have that creative destruction they have in economics, what we're seeing with AI is you're having this fear of all these jobs being lost because of it, but it also creates new jobs because of it, and so you have this kind of pendulum swing of loss and gain based on any time we see innovation, and AI is clearly a
Hmm.
major innovation.
I mean, I do wonder about the AI thing, because I can't remember who it was I was having a conversation with, but oh, that was right. It was Aaron Evans from Flow State, and he said, we got the phone, and then phone sales went crazy, and then we destroyed the phone, and then we got email, and then email sales went crazy, and then we destroyed the email. And he's like, I really hope it doesn't happen with a video, but I do wonder if it's going to happen with AI now, because everybody's jumping onto it. It does make it very difficult to keep that human element when there's what seems to be a very sort of quick solution, just like, just chuck it in AI, just do that. Okay, but are we going to lose this? The
Mm-hmm.
connection side of things. Um,
Well, it becomes an issue of if everyone, I mentioned this last week to somebody about like that's the best way to kill the cover letter. The best way to kill the
mm,
cover letter is to make sure that everyone uses AI on the cover letter, and then it's no longer a differentiator, and then like, oh, It's done. We don't need it anymore. That's probably a positive way to destroy something through AI. Um, no, I think it really comes down to using things as a tool, and if it becomes like your singular way of attack, then it's clearly going to become oversaturated, and then you're going to see things where it's like it no longer becomes effective. I think it also Ogilvy made a quote about like the consumer isn't an idiot, it's your wife or it's like somebody else. I think that because we are so kind of stuck in the nuance of everything that we do and we're staying updated, we assume that all consumers are idiots. And they're not. They recognize patterns. Like there's a reason why you get taught patterns in like second or third grade in school. Like it's not hard. Once we see like two or three DMs that have like the same kind of recipe, I
Mm,
know what that is.
absolutely.
The Super Bowl commercial, same thing. We saw something very similar to that. Like everything kind of felt like insert basic idea with a celeb. It'll work. It'll be fine because there's a celeb there that'll get their attention. And over time, over the course of the night, it was very clear like none of these are working because the idea was just the celeb. There was nothing attached to the celeb to make it actually worthwhile versus like Duncan did a great job with Ben Affleck because there's a meme of him being like a massive Duncan fan. And so that worked because the idea plus him could stand alone. But it wasn't just like if he's in it, it'll be enough. And so things like that.
Mm, absolutely. Well, to stay on a similar theme of, using storytelling within Super Bowl adverts, I suppose, telling the story of Ben Affleck loving Duncan.
Mm-hmm.
How can salespeople go about using storytelling to build rapport with prospects?
They have to be able to prove that they understand what the prospect is dealing with. And they have to understand that there's like multiple parts of that journey. So the person that you're talking to could be the person who is not the decision maker. They want the tool, but they have to have their pitch plus your pitch in order to strengthen it and get it to leadership. So they're basically like, please be my ally. I want to make this work. How can we make this good enough so I can pitch it to leadership and get it done? Other times, you could be talking to someone who's being held, and this is like a to do list for them. I just need you to talk through this and go through the process. They may not have any idea what the product is. They may have no understanding of how it's going to work for them or what problems it's going to solve. You could have everything from the most educated prospect who knows more about your pitch than you do, who literally is like, I just need pricing. Just give me pricing, we'll call it a day. All the way up to I'm just being told I need to talk to you. This is just on my calendar.
Mm,
And you have to be prepared for all of them. And you have to be prepared and do your homework for the same reasons that, like, if you're interviewing for a job, you should prove that you've done your homework and you understand what they do. The thing that kills me, absolutely kills me, is when there's no homework done. Like, if your cold DM is, hey, just would love to get on a call with you and, like, learn more about what you do. I'm like, you're
mm,
messaging me on LinkedIn and my LinkedIn's pretty clear. Like, what else do you want to know? Like, I'm confused. Things like that where it's kind of like I'm gonna play stupid to get you to like talk to me, and it's like, no, we're all adults. Like, you can read a LinkedIn profile. I know you can. Tell me, tell me what you want to know. So things like that, it really comes down to empathizing, understanding the different challenges that people have, being prepared for prospects of all educated status, from decision maker to someone who's going to have to like raise it up the flagpole, and being able to do it thoughtfully, understanding that like I know your brand, I know where you work, I know exactly what you offer, I already know how we could implement it for you. Like
mm,
that's the thing that kills me is you could go in and not only pitch me your product, but tell me how I could use it, where I could use it. And if I was already thinking about that, it's kind of like when I said Doctor Strange, and you're like, ooh, she's a Marvel fan. If you are pitching me something and you are able to present it to me in the use case that I was already thinking about, and it shows just like such a strong knowledge of like what I'm doing, that's that's going to create rapport with me because I'm like, oh, he gets it. Oh, she
mm,
gets it. Like they understand. They understand me. That's a huge way to get past a lot of barriers because having someone on the other end of the line and you like they
mm,
completely understand what I need, they're going to be able to take care of me. That's huge. Now that could happen in one touch. because you did 5 seconds of research and you did that little thing. Things like that. So I feel like that's the message. Like, give me 5 seconds.
Give me 5 seconds. Yeah, and the having the what my father called the internal salesperson as well, the advocate
Hmm.
on the inside.
Yeah.
He said the number of times that saved us, like trying to
Yeah.
make a deal, the number of times that we were telling them how we would solve their problems, but then somebody on their team was turning to their leadership going, we really, really need this. They know what they're doing. And he said, honestly,
And you don't get that from a pitch. You get
absolutely,
that because of relationships. 100%.
absolutely.
It's all about relationships. It might not show up as quickly as you'd like, but it shows up. The relationship it always like, oh, okay. And those are people who will stay with you. If you can get advocates that you've fostered relationships and you've developed that trust with them, not only are they going to be an advocate at their current job, they're going to be an advocate for you their entire career. So that person could go to multiple jobs, and as their career is going up, they're going higher and higher and higher till they are the decision maker.
Yeah, and then
Where
some.
you have that person, like that person's in your pocket already. Like, I already know they're going to come to us. And so as soon as and that's the thing, like those advocates, they get a job anniversary, you are in their DMs thanking them, celebrating them, sending them a little swag box. They get a new job, oh, you are hitting them hard. I am so proud of you. Congratulations. We gotta check. We gotta catch up. Like, it's just the little things. If you just talk to your prospects like friends, like not overly friendly, but just
Mm,
like, hey, I care. Congratulations. That's awesome for you. That's it makes a world of difference because people know they pay attention to who's clapping for them. They do. They 100% pay attention, and it's such an easy way. Take seconds.
yeah. It just comes back to sort of, the whole just being kind is just
Mm-hmm.
being nice, DBAD,
Yep.
that's the
Yep.
rule.
Yeah. No. True. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Um, Christina, this has been a real joy to have this conversation with you. It's been absolutely fascinating, particularly when you come, with a real world example
I'm ready
on
to
the day
go.
of recording. So I hugely value that. If you if you had one, and I think I know what you're going to say for this, but if you had one top tip, one key takeaway for everybody listening to this today, what would that be on building rapport?
I would think about how you would like to be treated. And if someone treated you the way that you're about to treat that person, how would that make you feel? Would that make you want to do business with them? Would that make them want to set up a meeting with you? Or would they want to ghost you?
Absolutely. It's one of the earliest lessons we're taught as people, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
from day one almost.
Yep.
Christina Gunner, thank you so much for joining me for the B2B Sales Playbook.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Well, there you go, Christina Garnett there on building rapport. Now, this just a reminder that today's session has been brought to you by Lead Forensics, which is software which in essence tells you who is looking at your B2B website in real time so you can tailor your sales approach and better close those deals. So if you'd like to uncover a fresh batch of high intent first party data to uplift your marketing results, hit the free trial, no obligation, let's get started option on the poll that is on screen right now. We will get in touch. We'll set up a no obligation free trial of our software for you, and you'll be able to see how powerful Lead Forensics can be to help your results. So I'm going to leave this poll up on screen just for a few seconds longer, just to make sure everybody gets the chance to say, yes, please, that sounds rather wonderful. And there we go. So thank you very much for joining us for this B2B Sales Playbook webinar. We'll be back again with another one very, very soon. Thanks.